guys, this is Lauren Hollows for NOI Education Services, and today I am answering the question, do I need a policy to address the changes happening with AI? So as you guys know, I've done a lot on AI lately. I'm also going to be presenting on AI when it comes to the VELG conference coming up in November. But short answer, I believe, is yes, you do need to have a policy in relationship to AI. Now, this may cross over with your plagiarism collusion policy, or you might choose to have one as a standalone. So there's a couple of things that I think that we do need to consider in relationship to AI. From the perspective of like a policy situation. Now, obviously, the first one is in relationship to AI should not be allowed to be used when it comes to any, what would I say? I guess any entry assessments. So for example, if you're doing an LLN, particularly for a higher level course, like for a diploma, advanced diploma, grad dip, anything along those lines, AI can't be used for any of that. And the reason is that you are obviously trying to get a very clear and authentic understanding of the student's skills. So really important not to allow students to use AI in that. Secondly, where you do actually allow students to use AI, I think it's important to be very clear on the ways in which AI can be used on your campus. So for example, I encourage RTOs, particularly again at that Cert 4 diploma level, to incorporate AI into the assessment. For that, we have kind of like an AI guide sheet for students to understand what are appropriate prompts to be using, what are appropriate ways to be using AI, and we give them kind of some examples of that. And generally that's linked in with, what would be appropriate from an industry perspective. So for example, I have a large team. Every single one of those team members uses AI for different reasons. But we make it very clear, like I make it very clear, the ways in which I want them to be using AI as a tool, as opposed to like as a replacement for them. But it's a fantastic tool. It's absolutely a tool that everyone's going to be using moving forward in the future. And so therefore, I think it's important to, start students on that pathway of learning how to use it, appropriately now. Now, obviously, one of the biggest things about that is like learning and understanding that AI is not always perfect, that it makes a lot of mistakes, that it will outright, it will outright get things wrong at times. It will even argue with you about getting things outright wrong. And it has limited capabilities depending on the way that you're looking to utilize it. So my recommendation is definitely that you do have a policy that says when you can't use it, what appropriate uses of it are, and what not appropriate uses of it are. So for example, if it's a closed book assessment, AI is not appropriate. If it's a straightforward assessment, maybe like, let's say a Cert 3 level, and it's literally just asking to confirm knowledge. So like short knowledge, like short answer knowledge questions and things like that, I would be recommending for most RTOs that you have some sort of instruction in your assessments. And we will go into this in more detail in another video. But I would definitely be recommending that you have some sort of proviso at the beginning of your assessment itself to say whether or not this assessment allows you to utilize AI as, part of it. So short answer questions, things like that would be a no. However, if the assessment is to build a policy and write a WHS policy and procedure, I would be saying to students, yeah, that's fine. You can use it to draft the policy, but you've got to then make sure that you edit it yourself. Certainly like within a wire, we're starting to build a lot of things in where they actually have to provide us with a track changes copy. So just be very, very clear with students as to where and when they can't use it. Now, obviously, that kind of filters into what happens if the students are using it incorrectly. And so therefore, you need to have a policy outlining what the consequences are. So anytime you have a rule as to whether or not somebody can or cannot do something, you need to clearly outline what the consequences are if they choose to breach that. So like, within your students' code of conduct, if the student breaches the code of conduct, here's what happens at a first warning, here's what happens at a second warning. And I think that that's really helpful. The other thing that you might end up using within your AI policy is how your staff can and can't use AI. So, you know, for example, we've got projects that we're working on at the moment where the client has very clearly said that they do not want any AI imagery used in that particular project. You know, so we make sure we communicate that to the staff. We've got other projects where we can use AI imagery. So, you know, you might want to include AI. You might want to think about AI and how that's utilized in your marketing, how that's utilized on your website, you know, and have specific policies and procedures for that sort of information as well. You know, obviously AI has a wide range of, you know, uses. So for example, you know, things like presentations, you know, is a student allowed to use AI images in their presentation? Knowing how to reference AI is another one. A lot of students don't think they need to reference AI at all. Sometimes you do. It really just like depends on the concept and what you're actually doing. But certainly there are definitely a lot more calls lately for acknowledging when you're using AI, crediting AI, things like that. So I think that that's definitely something that you want to start thinking about putting into your policies and procedures, even potentially for your assessor developers, having really clear rules in and around how AI can be used, when AI can be used, if it needs to be referenced, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that's just a little bit about how I think that you should have a policy in and around AI. If you've got any questions in and around this, by all means, please feel free to drop them in the question box below and I will do my best to answer them. Otherwise, if you want to know all about AI, then I recommend that you check out my presentation that's going to be coming up for VELG, for the VELG National Conference. I'm very excited about that. Me and about half the Anawaya team is going to be there to answer questions, to meet and greet, and we have some amazing specials that are coming up as well. So if you want to know more about that, by all means, drop me a link below, or you can email us at either Lauren or Laura at anawaya.org. I hope you guys have found this helpful. My name is Lauren Hollows for Anawaya Education Services.